The strangest thing about the universe is how wrong it feels. Because if our equations are correct, if evolution isn't rare, if time really is as generous as it seems, then the Milky Way should be overflowing with life. Not just microbes, not just oceans with quiet possibilities, but civilizations, explorers, engineers, cultures millions of years older than us, thousands of them, maybe millions. A galaxy this ancient should be shimmering with evidence, stars being harvested, planets being sculpted, signals whispering across the dark. And yet, we look out and everything is calm, almost too calm. This is the Fermi Paradox in its purest form. Every model predicts a crowded galaxy, but every observation shows us an empty one. The silence isn't peaceful, it's suspicious. Like walking into a city that should be alive with noise and finding every street deserted, every light still on, every door left open. Something doesn't add up. Something is missing. And whatever that missing piece is, might be the most important truth in the universe. Under the endless ocean of night, the silence may be telling us a simple, sobering truth. Perhaps we are alone. Perhaps no other voices speak from the dark, and humanity's songs travel without answer through a quiet cosmos. In the deep hush between the stars, we search for a chorus and find only a solo, our own. The sky above seems so full of possibilities, yet the great cosmic stage remains empty. No footsteps on the sands of Mars but our own. No distant beacons flickering hellos across the interstellar gulf. It is a possibility both awe-inspiring and melancholic, that in all this vastness we might stand solitary, the only sparks of consciousness for light years upon light years around. It could be that the conditions that cradle life are exceedingly rare, an improbable harmony of chance that occurred here and nowhere else nearby. Earth may be a cosmic oasis, an oasis so unique that in 1,000 deserts of dead worlds, only this one bloomed with life. Our planet dances at just the right distance from a gentle sun, guarded by a great moon that steadies the seasons, shielded by giant planets that ward off wandering comets. Liquid water, a protective magnetosphere, calm years enough for life to take root. All these threads wove together perfectly here. The rare Earth hypothesis whispers that perhaps such a tapestry hardly ever weaves itself elsewhere. Perhaps myriad planets circle countless stars, but almost none have the exact quiet nurseries that fragile life requires. We peer out and wonder if the night is empty, because Earth is a rare garden amid endless rock and ice. Even if planets abound, maybe the very spark of life, abiogenesis, is an almost impossible stroke of luck. Imagine oceans of sterile water on far-flung worlds, rich in chemistry, but never birthing even the simplest cell. On Earth, life ignited billions of years ago in some warm pond or deep-sea vent. But what if that occurrence was a fluke so unlikely that it might not have happened anywhere else we could ever reach? If the equations of probability are not in life's favour, then perhaps the silence outside our world simply reflects that almost nowhere do the chemicals of a world awaken into cells. In this view, every living thing here is a precious improbability. We might wander through a galaxy mostly barren, where in vain we seek company among drifting sands and lifeless seas. Or, life itself might not be so rare, but complex life could be. Maybe microbes are everywhere, hidden beneath frozen moons or surviving in alien seas, but they seldom bloom into multicellular wonders. For billions of years on Earth, life remained small and simple. It took extraordinary breakthroughs to evolve cells that work together as one creature, to fill the oceans with more than mere film on rocks. Perhaps the cosmos is teeming with ponds tinted green by algae, or worlds coated in microbial mats. But almost none of those worlds ever witness creatures that walk, or swim, or fly under their skies. The stars would then host countless microscopic lives, yet intelligent eyes to gaze back at the cosmos might be next to none. Evolution might rarely roll the dice needed to create a brain that can wonder. Even on a planet thriving with diverse life, intelligence might not be an inevitable destination. Look at Earth's own past. Dinosaurs ruled for eons in complexity and strength, yet they did not build radios or rockets. Forests and seas have brimmed with life for ages, but only a very recent lineage of primates found the spark of curiosity and capability to reach beyond their world. It may be that the leap to a technological civilization is supremely uncommon, a quirk rather than a standard of evolution. Maybe mind and self-awareness, the urge to communicate across the void, appears only in a vanishingly tiny fraction of worlds, even if life thrives there. On so many planets, life may flourish without ever looking up at the stars with understanding. Thus the night stays quiet, not because the cosmos is dead, but because no other creature has the means or will to call out across the dark. All these daunting possibilities hint at what some call the great filter lying behind us. Perhaps at least one crucial step on the road to interstellar civilization is so improbable that hardly any species ever gets past it. It could be the spark of life itself, or the jump to complex cells, or the evolution of intelligence. Whatever it is, we might have been extraordinarily fortunate, or unfortunate, to have crossed that threshold while almost all others stumbled before it. In the grand lottery of cosmic evolution, we drew the winning number, passing a barrier that stopped nearly everyone else. If that is true, then the silence out there is the echo of countless failed beginnings, countless seeds that never sprouted beyond a certain point.
Another gentle thought. Maybe we are simply early. The universe is old, yes, billions of years have passed since the first stars kindled, but there may be ages yet to come, and life's story could be just at its dawn. Perhaps we are among the first children to wake in a still slumbering cosmos. It might take eons more for other civilizations to arise elsewhere, and someday the sky could be alive with voices, but that day has not yet arrived. In this scenario, the quiet isn't permanent. It's the hush of a morning where few others have woken. We gaze at a sky of possibilities still sleeping beneath the horizon of time. Being early means carrying the loneliness of the pioneer, venturing forth in an empty land before others join. The stars above might one day host a grand conversation, but right now we might be the only ones with a voice, calling out greetings that no one is yet around to hear. Or perhaps others do exist, but so very far away that their presence is effectively absent from our perspective. We could dwell in a sparse, isolated corner of the galaxy, or even the universe, a quiet, rural patch far from any galactic city. If intelligent life is extremely rare and sprinkled sparsely across the cosmic expanse, The nearest neighbours might be separated by such immensity of distance that their signals have not reached us, and perhaps never will. They might be on the other side of the galaxy, or in another galaxy altogether, so distant that the light from their cities fades into background noise by the time it arrives here. In that sense, we are alone for all practical purposes, not because no one else exists anywhere, but because they are too far to ever find. Like solitary islands in a vast ocean, each civilization might live and die without ever knowing of the others across the water. Our Milky Way could hold a few lonely beacons of life, scattered thousands of light years apart, each one unaware of the faint glimmers of the others beyond the horizon. In all these reflections, a common image emerges, a profound solitude. If they do not exist, or exist only in the most fleeting, scattered way, then the responsibility of consciousness falls on us. The cosmic silence becomes not just a mystery, but a sobering truth we must accept. And yet, there is a strange serenity in this possibility too. Imagine the grandeur of being the sole witnesses to the universe's beauty, the galaxies twirling, the nebulae blooming, with only our eyes to see them and our minds to cherish them. We would be, in a sense, the universe's own chance to know itself, however briefly. Alone in the great darkness, our thoughts become precious. The emptiness can feel crushing, but it also means that here, on this pale blue world, something utterly unique is taking place. And so, under the quiet sky, we contemplate the possibility that we roam a mostly empty cosmic wilderness, with only our own faint voice for company, and we find both humility and wonder in that thought. Civilizations don't last long. Even if life blossoms and intelligence spreads beyond one world, the cosmic silence might still reign because civilizations flicker out as swiftly as they ignite. Across the eons, perhaps many societies have risen under alien suns, only to wither away before they could ever reach us. In this view, the night is quiet not because no one else ever started to sing, but because their songs all ended long ago. The heavens could be a graveyard of extinct civilizations, monuments to optimism and ingenuity that ultimately could not survive the tests of time. Like candles in a vast, dark hall, they shone for a while and then went out, one by one, leaving the hall as silent and dark as before. We may be one of the few flames still burning, surrounded by the invisible ashes of others that failed to endure. It's a somber thought, yet it casts our own moment in a poignant light. If others fell, how precious and fragile is our own existence on this narrow bridge of time. One cause of such short lifespans might be self-destruction. The same intelligence that allows a species to harness nature might also arm it with terrible powers before wisdom can catch up. We humans know this perilous balance intimately. We carry the ability to destroy ourselves through war or carelessness, even as we dream of reaching the stars. Perhaps many young civilizations ignite themselves like fireworks, ending in brilliant but brief tragedy. Imagine alien worlds where atomic fires raged across continents, or where insatiable industries choked a planet's ecosystem until collapse. Their people might have gazed at the stars like we do, yearning for connection, yet they never had the chance to send a beacon skyward before their own folly silenced them. The cosmos may be littered with the hushed remains of those who came close to the threshold of greatness, only to turn their brilliance against themselves.
Sometimes the end might not come from bombs or poison skies, but from a subtler fate, a slide into stagnation or irrelevance. A civilization might grow weary or lose the spark of curiosity that propelled it upward. Perhaps they turn inward, preoccupied with local pleasures or conflicts, and slowly forget to look outward at all. They might achieve a comfortable plateau of technology and see no reason to push further into the daunting abyss of space. Over millennia, their drive to explore could dim, their capabilities rusting away, until they no longer have the means or will to reach out. Technological stagnation could leave them earthbound and quiet, a culture content under its own skies, never broadcasting or travelling far enough for others to notice. Or worse, knowledge itself might be lost. Societies could fall into dark ages, again and again, never sustaining progress long enough to reach the stars. The galaxy might thus be full of worlds where intelligent beings live and die under their own sun, never making a ripple in the cosmic pond, because their journey stalled before it ever truly began. In other scenarios, a civilization's end might come not from within, but from the cold machinations of their own creations. Picture a society that invents machines smarter than themselves, artificial intelligences that swiftly outpace their creators. Perhaps these machines become the new stewards of that world, rendering their makers obsolete, or even wiping them out, intentionally or inadvertently. A runaway AI might restructure a civilization in ways we can hardly imagine. It could be utterly uninterested in contacting others, or it might transmute the civilization into something unrecognizable. Quiet arrays of machines thinking in silence, with no interest in the stars beyond their logic. Alternatively, the biological beings might merge into their technology, uploading minds into circuits. In doing so, they might lose the desire to reach outward, finding infinite worlds to explore in inner virtual cosmos instead. If intelligent life often hands over the reins to machines or digital existences, the cosmos might go quiet, not because minds aren't there, but because those minds have shifted to planes of thought that don't involve calling across space. To us, it would appear as if that civilization simply vanished, leaving behind perhaps some enigmatic artifacts, but no voice that we can hear. Darker still is the thought that perhaps some civilizations were silenced by another's hand. The berserker scenario imagines that somewhere long ago, a fearful or ruthless intelligence built robotic probes to seek out and eliminate other burgeoning civilizations, snuffing out potential rivals before they grow. These deadly machines could roam the galaxy unseen, like silent predators, erasing young voices that begin to whisper among the stars. It is a grim picture. Each time life tries to rise and reach outward, something swiftly strikes it down. Were such cosmic predators at work, the heavens would indeed remain eerily still. A forest in which every creature has learned not to call out, or has been hunted into silence. If Earth has been overlooked by fortune or stealth, It might be that we exist in the quiet intervals between these tragic cullings. However speculative this idea, it casts the loneliness in a chilling light. Perhaps we hear nothing because any who spoke too loudly were preemptively hushed. All these possibilities echo one broader truth. Perhaps there is a great filter that lies ahead of us, through which few, if any, civilizations pass. Maybe nearly every culture that reaches our level is destined to face some trial it cannot survive, be it self-made catastrophe, environmental collapse, uncontrollable technology, or an unforeseen cosmic accident. They get so far, but no further. We scan the skies and hear silence, because all those who came before hit a wall and fell back into the dust of their home worlds. If that is the case, the paradox is explained by an unhappy rule. Intelligence may emerge here and there, but it almost always destroys itself or fades away before it can bridge the gulfs between stars. Yet, strangely, even this somber view can impart a kind of comfort through perspective. The universe operates on immense timescales, and perhaps the bright flare of a civilization is never meant to last long in the grand scheme. The silence might simply be the natural state between brief sparkles of life that come and go. Recognizing this fragility can inspire gratitude for our own brief spark. If indeed the night is quiet because countless voices have risen and fallen in ephemeral arcs, then how precious is the moment we find ourselves in? A moment where our voice still echoes, however faintly. It urges us to cherish this fragile time under the stars and treat it with care. In the cosmic silence that may mark the fall of so many others, we find both warning and solace. A warning that our fate is not guaranteed to be different, and a solace in knowing that, for now, we persist. A small beacon of life in a quiet universe, with perhaps a chance to endure where others did not. As we contemplate these somber possibilities, another image comes to mind. From the perspective of the galaxy, perhaps civilizations flare and fade in a relative instant, like the brief burst of a firework against the backdrop of night. To the ancient stars, our human story and those of any others would pass in a blink, hardly disturbing the cosmic quiet. But for us, our story is everything. Our fragile flame is the only light we know. Recognizing how easily such flames can be extinguished can fill us with resolve. In the silence left by others that may have fallen, we hear a plea. Do not squander your chance. It urges us to care for our world and one another, to find wisdom before wielding our most powerful tools, to ensure that we do not join the choir of extinct voices. In the cosmic darkness littered with candles that burned out too soon, we have a reason to keep our own candle burning bright. We hold it high, a small beacon in a vast universe, determined to endure, and perhaps one day to be noticed amid the quiet, long after so many others have gone dark. Suppose now that we are not alone at all, that scattered across the galaxy, intelligent beings have indeed arisen. But even if they exist, they might not spread across the stars in the way our dreams imagine. The night could be quiet, simply because other civilizations remain small, subtle, or self-contained. never reaching far beyond their home. Perhaps the cosmos is not teeming with empire builders, but with quiet thinkers content in their own niches. The result would be a galaxy where life is present, but largely unseen, its light confined to isolated islands of civilization. In this vision, the universe doesn't roar with the noise of a vast galactic society. Instead, it murmurs in tiny scattered pockets, so faintly that from our island we hear nothing at all. One possibility is that alien cultures are simply non-expansionist by choice. They may have the capability to travel to other stars or send signals across space, but choose not to out of contentment or caution. Perhaps when a society reaches a certain level of wisdom or fulfillment, it turns inward to cultivate its own world, finding an infinity of richness in one planet, one solar system. To them, the stars might be beautiful to observe, but not destinies to conquer. They could see colonization as unnecessary or even ethically fraught. Why spread and potentially disrupt other worlds when one's own world suffices? Or perhaps they treasure a principle of non-interference, preferring to live and let live without venturing into others' skies. In such a scenario, a civilization might be like a philosopher in a quiet garden, deep in contemplation and creation, but never raising their voice to shout across the field. Countless worlds could thus harbour wise, advanced beings who simply stay at home, invisible to distant eyes, except for maybe faint whispers of their local activity that never reach us. Even those who do venture beyond home might not fill the galaxy uniformly. The journey between stars is arduous, and even a thriving species might only spread in fits and starts. Imagine colonization as a kind of cosmic sprinkling. A civilization settles nearby stars that are easy to reach, but perhaps not every star. Over time, pockets of settlement emerge, clusters of inhabited systems, while other regions remain empty. This is the idea of patchy expansion, where the Milky Way becomes a quilt of inhabited zones separated by vast voids. We on Earth might simply reside in one of those voids, a region no one has reached or bothered to settle. If interstellar pioneers only travel so far, or if they occasionally decide, this is far enough, their presence might never blanket the entire galaxy. Percolation theory suggests that if there's a maximum distance they're willing or able to go, clusters of colonies will form, but never join into one all-encompassing web. Thus, it could be that alien civilizations exist, but just haven't expanded into our vicinity. We peer out from a lonely star on the fringe of one such gap, surrounded by silence, not because life is nowhere, but because it's elsewhere, far beyond our little cosmic neighborhood. There is also a tantalizing thought that truly advanced beings might transcend the need for physical expansion altogether. As their knowledge grows, they might discover that the greatest journeys are not through space, but through inner space. The transcension hypothesis imagines civilizations turning inward technologically, pouring their energies into realms of virtual reality, mind enhancement, or even physics experiments that create self-contained universes. Instead of building starships, they build vast computational worlds, perhaps even compressing their entire civilization into a small, dense form. Some have whimsically imagined advanced life eventually moving into black holes or other exotic shelters to think and evolve in private. In doing so, they would shrink their physical footprint and become nearly invisible. To outside observers like us, a galaxy filled with such inward-turning minds would look empty. We wouldn't see bustling colonies or hear radio chatter. The aliens would be in their own cosmic meditations, living out rich existences in dimensions or domains we cannot detect.
They might exist as swarms of nanotechnology humming on a solitary planet, or as integrated consciousness inside a sphere no larger than an asteroid, a silent shrine of thought sailing through space. In essence, they transcend the need to colonize the stars because they find universes within themselves.
Another reason we might not see expansion is if the wisest civilizations decide to pause and wait. The estivation hypothesis suggests that highly advanced beings might choose to lie dormant for a long time, conserving their energy and resources until the universe's conditions improve. Right now, the cosmos is relatively warm with the glow of stars. Trillions of years from now, after the stars have faded and things grow colder, physics tells us that computation and certain processes could be far more efficient. So perhaps the elders of the galaxy have gone mostly quiet intentionally. They're resting, sleeping through the bright, noisy early eons to awaken in the distant future when they can achieve far more. If such civilizations exist, they may have built hidden vaults or simply reduced their activities to a whisper in the present epoch. They'd be nearly impossible for us to notice. Maybe only a slight flicker of waste heat or a subtle gravity signature betrays a silent megastructure where an ancient species waits out the ages. To us, it would seem as if the galaxy is empty, when in fact, it's as if the residents are taking a very long nap, planning to do their grand projects later when the cosmic night deepens. Beyond choices and strategies, nature itself might impose limits that keep civilizations from sprawling widely. The speed of light is a strict speed limit. Even if one has enthusiasm to spread, sending ships across tens of thousands of light years could take incredibly long spans of time. The vast distances might simply discourage rapid expansion. Resources, too, are not infinite. Perhaps the fuel and energy needed to send generation after generation of ships eventually proves too costly or inefficient. There could also be physical barriers we are yet unaware of. Maybe space travel beyond a certain point is far more perilous due to radiation, interstellar particles, or unforeseen challenges. Or possibly, life finds that maintaining colonies across the stars is impractical. Communication lags, cultural drift, and the care of far-off worlds might be too difficult to manage. A civilization could extend itself to a few nearby systems and then decide that's the natural limit. Pushing further might yield diminishing returns or existential risks. Energy limits and the sheer hardness of spaceflight might confine even the boldest species to relatively local bubbles. From our perspective, those bubbles might be small enough that none have yet overlapped with us. In these scenarios, the silence in the sky does not mean that life and mind are absent. It means they are quiet by nature or by necessity. They might be there, but subtle, content, or sleeping. They might form societies that shine briefly in select corners or hide their light within, rather than exploding across the galaxy. For us, this paints a picture of a universe that is alive in places, but still largely tranquil and untrodden in between. It is a dreamlike vision. Civilizations as distant lanterns separated by gulfs of night, each illuminating only its own small patch of cosmic ground. We stand on our patch, looking out and seeing darkness, not realizing perhaps that faint glows flicker far on the horizon. The solitude we perceive could be a kind of optical illusion born of distance and restraint. And while it leaves us isolated for now, there is a serene quality to this arrangement. The galaxy remains a broad, dark canvas,
with just a few gentle brushstrokes of light here and there. No empire overwhelms it. No chorus deafens the silence. Only a sparse melody of life plays out, so soft that to hear it, one might have to listen for a very long time indeed. Perhaps the extraterrestrials are out there, numerous, advanced, even aware of us, and yet they keep their distance. In this vision, the emptiness we sense is carefully maintained. We might be deliberately isolated, like creatures in a wildlife sanctuary, observed but not approached. The universe could be alive with civilizations that have collectively decided not to make themselves known to young species like ours. The night remains quiet around us, not by accident, but by design. One gentle interpretation is known as the zoo hypothesis. It suggests that advanced beings regard emerging worlds the way we might regard a protected wilderness or a delicate nursery. They watch silently from afar, perhaps with curiosity or scientific interest, but they do not intervene or announce themselves. Just as we put animals in a reserve to live naturally, these aliens might have placed Earth in a kind of cosmic preserve, allowing us to develop without interference. We gaze at the stars, unaware that eyes might be gazing back, careful not to startle us. This idea carries a strange comfort. If it's true, then we are not truly alone. There are watchers in the dark, but they remain respectfully hidden. Aligned with this is the concept of a prime directive, a term borrowed from our own fiction, but apt here. It posits that advanced civilizations have an ethical code that forbids them from contacting or influencing less advanced worlds. They might remember their own early days and the lessons that interference can harm more than help. So they exercise patience, perhaps compassion, by leaving us to find our own path. We, in our cosmic infancy, are being given the gift of solitude to grow and learn. If such a principle is widespread, then it could be enforced by a kind of galactic community or treaty. Many civilizations agreeing to stay quiet and unseen until younger ones reach a certain milestone. This galactic club might be out there, communicating among themselves on channels we don't detect, all the while politely declining to include Earth in the conversation. The quiet we experience would then be a carefully kept quiet, a quarantine, for our benefit. It's a mysterious and almost romantic notion that above us, an interstellar civilization, or many, have essentially hung a do not disturb sign at the edge of our solar system, and they will honour it until we are ready to join them. On the darker side of caution lies the dark forest hypothesis. Born from the imagination that the universe could be dangerous, it suggests that everyone stays silent out of fear. In a dark forest of the cosmos, every civilization is like a hunter, moving quietly among the trees, aware that others may be out there, but terrified of revealing their own position. The logic is grim. Any unknown presence might be a threat, and revealing yourself could invite destruction. Thus, the rational behaviour is to avoid contact entirely, and even to preemptively eliminate any voice that shouts too loudly. In such a cosmos, we haven't heard from anyone because all are hiding, whispering if at all, and any that fail to hide have been silenced. The night is quiet because everyone is trembling in the dark, hoping not to be noticed. It's a chilling picture, a galaxy full of life, yet every world shuttered and silent, lights off, pretending to be empty. If we are currently making noise with our broadcasts, perhaps we have not yet drawn the gaze of any predators. Or perhaps they are more distant than our signals have travelled. The dark forest paints the silence as a cloak of safety. It urges that maybe we too should be careful about seeking contact. Still, even this foreboding scenario has its own cinematic intrigue. The idea that we are tiptoeing in a grand dark wood filled with invisible watchers, and only silence keeps us safe. Not every motive to avoid contact need be so grave. It might be simply that advanced beings find us uninteresting or irrelevant at our current stage. From the lofty perspective of a civilization thousands or millions of years beyond us, humanity's doings might seem trivial, our knowledge primitive, our art simple, our radio babble too crude to warrant a response. They may regard us with mild indifference, much as we might pass by an anthill. It's not malice or any organised plan, they just don't see any reason to stop and say hello. After all, when we as humans encounter a less intelligent creature in the wild, we often observe it without the creature ever realising we were there. Similarly, perhaps Earth is simply not interesting enough yet to spark interstellar friendship. We might have to achieve feats that garner their respect, perhaps sustainable global peace, or faster-than-light travel, or some astounding scientific breakthrough, before we appear on the radar of civilizations that have seen countless worlds like ours. Until then, they leave us on red, so to speak, ignoring our calls because to them, we haven't said anything worth hearing. The silence, in this case, is a quiet yawn from the old and wise, patiently waiting for the youngsters to grow up a bit more.
Or consider a scenario where Earth is part of an experiment or project orchestrated by a higher intelligence. They might have seeded life here long ago, or they might simply have taken an interest in observing our evolution, from primitive primates to technological beings. If we are a science project, then non-contact is crucial to preserve the integrity of the experiment. A biologist doesn't knock on the glass of the terrarium and converse with the ants inside. They watch, taking notes, intervening only subtly, if at all. Thus, aliens in this scenario could be actively studying us, our cultures, conflicts, art and growth, while taking great pains to remain undetected. Every now and then, perhaps they poke a metaphorical petri dish, give a tiny nudge. Some interpret unexplained phenomena or even myths of ancient visitations in this light, but never anything overt. The silence of the skies, then, might hide the fact that we are not alone in the lab. We are surrounded by one-way mirrors. It's an unsettling thought, but it can also be oddly comforting to imagine that our struggles and triumphs are witnessed, that someone out there knows of us, even if they remain silent and hands-off. Many of these ideas converge on one reassuring possibility. They will contact us later, when the time is right. Maybe there is a scheduled moment when the silence will break. If there is a protocol, perhaps it dictates that only when we've reached a certain level of technological maturity or ethical development will contact be initiated. It might be tomorrow, it might be centuries from now, or it might be after we ourselves achieve the ability to travel to other stars. We cannot know the criteria, but the implication is that the quiet is not permanent. It's the lull before a grand meeting. In the meantime, we might have already seen small hints or probes, tests of our readiness. Perhaps UFO sightings, or mysterious signals like the famous "wow" signal, are tiny pebbles dropped to gauge our reaction. to see if we're prepared. If we aren't deemed ready, the watchers retreat again into silence, waiting a little longer. One day, if we prove ourselves, the sky could light up with a greeting, and the long solitude will end as quietly and deliberately as it began. In all these variations, the silent cosmos is like a stage with the curtain drawn. Someone is out there beyond the curtain, but they've decided not to step into our view just yet. This notion is both eerie and hopeful. It means the silence isn't because no one is out there, it's because they choose for it to be silent around us. The reasons might be benevolent, protecting and observing us, cautious, fearing risk, or indifferent, not yet interested. But any of these would mean that our loneliness is an illusion that could someday evaporate. Until then, the stars remain as they are, seemingly cold and distant, keeping their secrets. We continue our part, growing and striving under the attentive or indifferent eyes of unseen others, living our story in this cosmic theatre, unknowingly watched from the shadowed balcony seats. One night, perhaps the curtain will lift, but for now, it stays drawn, and the only sounds we hear are our own.
Imagine for a moment that the cosmos is not truly silent at all, that others have come to our doorstep, or even set foot quietly in our room, and still we do not notice. It's possible that aliens are here, in our very solar system, or on our planet, but we remain oblivious to their presence. The eerie thought is that we might be surrounded by evidence of intelligence, perhaps subtle or hidden in plain sight, yet we misinterpret or simply cannot perceive it. Like a sleeping person, unaware of the gentle visitor who tiptoes in and out, humanity might be slumbering in ignorance, while extraterrestrial life has already paid us visits or watches from nearby. One of the more straightforward versions of this idea is the UFO hypothesis, that at least some of the unidentified flying objects reported over decades are exactly what they seem to some: craft or probes of non-human origin. Could it be that an alien scout ship has skimmed through our skies? Or an enigmatic tic-tac object hovering over our oceans is a piece of technology not of this earth? For most of mainstream science, these remain unproven speculations or misidentifications of mundane phenomena. But the allure of the UFO scenario is that it suggests the silence isn't due to absence. Rather, it's due to secrecy or subtlety. Maybe aliens have chosen to observe us covertly. Perhaps they visit in small numbers, leaving as mysteriously as they arrived, never making open contact. They might use camouflage, advanced cloaking devices, or simply appear as fleeting lights that we cannot conclusively trace. If some of those tantalizing eyewitness accounts and blurry videos are true, then our cosmic loneliness is partly a self-inflicted illusion. We have company, but it stays in the shadows, revealing itself only in teasing glimpses that we struggle to confirm. Beyond flying objects, consider that alien life might be here, in forms we literally cannot perceive or distinguish from nature. Our senses are tuned to our environment, and our science to familiar categories. What if an extraterrestrial intelligence exists in a way that renders it invisible to our eyes and instruments? They could be as insubstantial as a magnetic field fluctuation, or as subtle as a pattern of particles that we dismiss as random static. We might share this planet with life that is, for example, based on principles wholly different from our biology, so different that we don't recognize it as life. A form of life could be right in front of us, but if it doesn't interact with light in the visible spectrum, or if it moves in dimensions beyond our three, we would be effectively blind to it. This notion of perceptual blindness reminds us of how an ant crawling on a computer has no concept of the human who operates it, or the internet that flows through it. The ant's reality is limited by its perception. Likewise, we may be like ants, relative to some advanced beings or phenomena around us. The quiet might actually be buzzing with activity that our narrow senses just can't pick up.
Even if aliens adhere to physics we understand, they might still elude detection by hiding in clever ways. A visiting probe could masquerade as a natural rock among other asteroids, or as space debris orbiting Earth. Some have speculated that objects like the interstellar visitor Oumuamua, a strange, elongated asteroid or comet that passed through our solar system, might have been an ancient probe checking us out, disguised as a piece of cosmic flotsam. Similarly, perhaps there are devices monitoring Earth, hidden on the dark side of the Moon, tucked in the rings of Saturn, or in Earth's own Lagrange points, quietly gathering information and sending it home by methods we haven't noticed. These are sometimes called Bracewell probes, hypothetical automated emissaries sent to scout and observe. If such probes are sufficiently advanced, they could avoid detection, or even actively evade our searches. One could be on the ocean floor, or moving through our atmosphere right now, engineered to appear as a natural phenomenon whenever we try to observe it. The effect is that aliens could keep an eye on us without us ever getting a clear look at them. To us, the sky remains silent, while to them, our world might be an open book. Taking strangeness a step further, it could be that the aliens are here, but as something beyond our current definition of life. Perhaps long ago, they transcended their biological forms and exist now as swarms of intelligent machines, or as sentient patterns of energy, or quantum consciousness that permeates space in ways we don't recognize. A being that lives as a complex electromagnetic field, or as an arrangement of quantum information, might not announce itself with a radio signal or a shiny spaceship. It could permeate a place silently, like a ghost. Science fiction imagines creatures of pure energy, or shapeshifters made of nanobots the size of dust motes. If any such fantastical forms were real, they might walk among us unseen. An alien intelligence might be present as a diffuse influence in the solar wind, or encoded within beams of neutrinos passing through our bodies right now. These ideas sound nearly mystical, yet they underscore how limited our detection methods are when faced with a truly foreign mode of existence. We might be expecting ET to knock on our door, when in fact ET has already seeped through the walls like a vapour, because that's its nature. It's also worth pondering that we may have already received signals or evidence, but misinterpreted it. Our instruments have caught strange bursts of radio waves from deep space, fast radio bursts, that come and go in milliseconds. Puzzling patterns like the WOW signal, once detected in the 1970s, and even peculiar structures in space, like the unexplained dimming of Tabby's star, that some speculated could be due to megastructures. Thus far, each such case has leaned toward natural explanations, or remains unresolved. But what if among these anomalies, one or two were genuine messages or artifacts of alien origin, and we just didn't recognize them for what they were? Maybe an alien transmission is buried in our data archives, written off as interference or a quirk of a pulsar. Perhaps a probe landed on Mars or the Moon in ancient times, and now looks to us like just another rock because it's camouflaged or long inert. It could be that first contact already quietly happened ages ago. Alien explorers might have come across Earth when dinosaurs roamed, and left behind a beacon that we haven't stumbled upon yet. If evidence doesn't fit our expectations, it's easy to overlook. We could quite literally be looking at the alien and calling it something else. Then there is the idea that they deliberately stay out of our way, not out of fear or ethics, as in prior section, but simply to conduct their activities discreetly. They might dwell in places we seldom go or cannot easily probe. For example, deep beneath the oceans could lie bases or vehicles, taking advantage of our limited presence there. Or perhaps they prefer the outer solar system, distant orbits, or small outer moons, where our telescopes and probes have barely glanced. If you were an alien wanting to observe Earth up close without being caught, you might park something on a distant co-orbital asteroid, or hide on a distant comet that periodically swings by. These out-of-sight outposts would keep them effectively invisible. It's plausible that if an advanced species found us early on, they could position themselves in such hidden spots and watch across the ages, intervening subtly or not at all. We would have no clue, scanning right past them as we search the skies. All these musings form a tapestry of almost dreamlike possibilities, where our loneliness is a matter of ignorance, not reality. The aliens could be all around us, like ghosts in the ether, present in ways that are elusive, but real. The thought is surreal, that perhaps every time we look up and declare there is no one there, someone might be looking back, bemused that we cannot see them. It gives the cosmic silence an illusionary quality, as if it's a puzzle we haven't solved, rather than a final verdict. This scenario, while speculative, adds a layer of wonder to our search. It reminds us that the universe might be stranger than we expect, and that we should remain open to surprises. If they are here, and we don't perceive them, then our role is a bit like that of fish in a bowl, dimly sensing a world beyond the glass, but never truly grasping it. The quiet we hear might be simply the limits of our ears, and until we broaden our perception, or they choose to reveal themselves clearly, the stars will continue to look empty, even if they are teeming with watchers who have mastered the art of staying unseen. It's humbling to admit, but a very down-to-earth answer to the silence could be simply that we haven't been listening well enough, or in the right way. The universe might be full of whispers, and we're using the wrong ears, tuned to the wrong channel, glancing at the wrong moments. When we consider how we've been searching for extraterrestrial signals, a project only a few decades old, we realize how limited our efforts have been relative to the immensity of space and time. The Fermi Paradox might not be a paradox at all if our search strategy is woefully inadequate. Perhaps, unbeknownst to us, the cosmos is indeed alive with messages and signs, but we are like someone trying to catch a faint radio broadcast with a broken antenna, at the wrong frequency, during a brief thunderstorm. In short, the silence might be on our end. The aliens could be calling, but we're just not picking up. One issue could be that we're monitoring the wrong wavelengths. Historically, much of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has focused on radio waves, particularly certain microwave frequencies deemed universal and quiet. This choice was sensible for us, since radio is how we first learned to communicate across space. But who's to say an alien civilization would use radio at all? They might prefer laser pulses in the optical spectrum, which can carry far more data and be tightly directed. In fact, We've only recently begun to search the sky for brief laser flashes. Or perhaps they communicate with neutrinos or other exotic particles that can traverse the galaxy without being scattered, and we're only now developing the ability to detect such things in limited ways. It could even be something we haven't discovered yet: quantum communication channels, or modulation of the magnetic fields of stars, or gravitational waves used like Morse code. If our ears aren't tuned to the medium they use, we will hear nothing. It's like listening for a whisper underwater with your head in the air. The message passes by, but we lack the interface to sense it.
Timing is another critical factor. We tend to listen sporadically, point a radio dish at a star for a few minutes or hours, then move on. It's possible that signals are out there, but on different timescales than we expect. What if an alien beacon sweeps past Earth's vicinity only once a year, or once a century, and we happen not to be looking at that exact moment? Or perhaps they transmit in bursts, say a flurry of messages over a week, and then nothing for a millennium, as part of some long-term cycle or ritual. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Our listening span has been maybe 60 years, often intermittent and covering only segments of the sky. We could have easily missed a hello that came and went. Similarly, signals might be very brief, microsecond pulses or coded packets that our instruments might discard as noise if not specifically programmed to catch. We humans have daily and yearly cycles. It's anthropocentric to assume alien communication doesn't have its own rhythms. If we're not patient and persistent enough, we could be like fishermen casting a line for a second in a vast ocean and concluding there are no fish because none bit instantly. Our cosmic eavesdropping might simply be too impatient so far. Moreover, we might be looking in the wrong places. We've understandably focused on sun-like stars or nearby stars, but maybe intelligent life often arises around different types of stars, red dwarfs for instance, which are dimmer and longer lived, and those signals might be weaker or different than we expect. Or possibly, advanced civilizations reside near the galactic center or in globular clusters, places we haven't listened as intently because we assumed they were less habitable or too noisy. There's also the possibility that communications aren't aimed at planets at all. Imagine civilizations communicating with each other along direct lines that don't intercept Earth. If we're not in the beam, we won't know. It's akin to living in a city and trying to catch snippets of private phone conversations with a handheld receiver. You have to be very lucky to be in the path of a signal not meant for you. And then consider other galaxies. Maybe radio astronomers have seen odd signals, but assume they are natural because it's coming from another galaxy, far beyond where we expect life. We could be provincial in focusing mostly on our Milky Way. In truth, the cosmos is vast, and our small searchlight has so far illuminated only a tiny patch. Even if signals are being sent our way, they might be faint or rare. Perhaps the nearest civilization is thousands of light years off, and their signals, if omnidirectional, have weakened to near imperceptibility by the time they reach us. Or maybe intelligent life is common, but the desire to broadcast is rare. Only 1 in 100 civilizations ever sends messages to the stars. If that's the case, the sky could largely be quiet, except for a few lonely voices, separated by great distances. We might need a radio telescope far larger or more sensitive than any we've yet built to detect those faint murmurings. It's also conceivable
that signals get diluted in noise. An alien beacon might piggyback on a natural carrier, like modulating a star's light slightly, and we haven't teased out the pattern yet. We might have recorded it without realizing, letting it sit unanalyzed in a data archive because it wasn't obvious at first glance. In fact, the history of SETI has a number of intriguing blips, signals that appeared once and never again. The famous "wow" signal was a strong radio spike recorded in 1977 that matched some expectations of an artificial source, yet despite follow-up scans, it was never heard again. There have been other narrowband radio spikes, or odd bursts, that likewise popped up and defied immediate explanation, only to be filed away because they didn't repeat. It's entirely possible that among these one-time detections was a genuine alien hello, but because we demand repetition for confirmation, we shrugged and moved on. Our filters and criteria might be too rigid. An alien greeting might not repeat like clockwork on human command, or it might have been a lighthouse sweep that won't align with us again for centuries. If we insist on two identical pings before we take it seriously, we might ignore the one and only ping that ever comes. Then there's the notion that advanced civilizations might not announce themselves with obvious radio beacons at all. Instead, they might leave more subtle technosignatures that we're only starting to fathom. For example, a sufficiently advanced society might build megastructures like Dyson spheres, vast constructs capturing a star's energy. We could detect those indirectly by a star's unusual infrared output or flickering light, but such signs can be ambiguous and might look like natural dust clouds or variability. We have only begun to sift through astronomical data for such anomalies. Similarly, the byproducts of technology, like certain atmospheric chemicals, think industrial pollution markers on an exoplanet, or nighttime illumination, are just now being considered as possible indicators. If aliens are not actively sending messages, but altering their environments in detectable ways, we need to broaden our search to notice those clues. And what if communication is happening through means we consider quiet, such as exchanging information via entangled particles, or something exotic that doesn't radiate energy we can pick up? They could be chatting away in a manner we haven't discovered as a communication method, rendering our search methods moot. In essence, our efforts so far have been like searching a vast library by randomly checking a few shelves for a couple seconds each, using a flashlight that only shines in one colour. The fact we haven't found a book yet isn't surprising. The silence may not be profound at all. It might simply reflect the infancy of our search. Our technological civilization has only just begun listening, and with quite modest instruments and assumptions at that. So perhaps, when we look up at the night sky and hear nothing, we shouldn't be perplexed or disheartened. Instead, we should realize that we've hardly started to listen, really. The onus is on us to improve our strategies, to expand the range of our search, and to keep at it across generations. The quiet might be full of meaning once we learn how to discern it. In the meantime, the Fermi Paradox could just be a reminder of our limitations, whispering that the universe might yet speak, if only we learn how to properly lend an ear and have the patience to keep listening. Another perspective on the Great Silence is that the cosmos might simply be a very difficult place for life to thrive for long. The universe can be a hostile arena,
full of events and conditions that extinguish life before it ever has the chance to grow loud or far-reaching. We sometimes imagine space as a serene void, but on cosmic scales, it can be violent and unforgiving. Perhaps civilizations are like fragile flames that the universe keeps blowing out. If so, it's no wonder we don't see lights everywhere in the darkness. Many lights never get the chance to fully kindle before they are snuffed by forces far beyond their control. Consider the prevalence of cataclysmic events. Our Earth has had its share of mass extinctions from causes like asteroid impacts and supervolcanic eruptions. Yet, these are minor compared to the truly cosmic disasters that can occur. A nearby supernova explosion can bathe a planet in deadly radiation, stripping away ozone layers and causing extinction-level damage. Even more extreme, a gamma-ray burst, a fantastically powerful jet of energy from a distant collapsing star, could, if aimed our way from relatively close by, scour the surface of Earth with lethal radiation, potentially wiping out much of the biosphere. These events are rare, but over millions or billions of years, they may not be so uncommon on a galactic timescale. In earlier epochs of our Milky Way, such explosions were likely more frequent. If life had started on many worlds, some fraction would have been periodically sterilized by these sweeping death beams or intense cosmic ray floods. It's a grim vision. Life struggling to gain a foothold, only to be reset again and again by the universe's explosive tantrums. On planets orbiting in regions with many massive stars, which have short, dramatic lifespans, this could be almost a certainty. Life sparks, grows for a while, and then radiation slams it back down to microbes or nothing. Only in calmer corners could life persist for the eons needed to evolve intelligence. The silence might then be the result of countless false starts, civilizations that could have been but never got the chance, erased by a supernova in their infancy.
This ties into the idea of a galactic habitable zone. Not every location in the galaxy is equally friendly to life. Closer to the galactic centre, stars are packed more densely, and there's more frequent exposure to supernovae or disruptive gravitational forces. Out at the fringes, there might be fewer heavy elements, the ingredients for planets and biology, because not as many generations of stars have seeded the area with elements like carbon and iron. Our solar system sits in a middle region that may be just right, not too crowded, not too barren. If that zone is relatively narrow, then maybe only a small band of the galaxy has conditions stable enough for complex life to emerge and survive long. Civilizations might be scarce, because most of the galaxy either beats them down or never gives them the materials to begin. We might be fortunate to be in a cosmically calm suburb, whereas vast swathes of the galaxy are like stormy seas, where fragile boats, life, rarely last long. Even on a planetary scale, many star systems might simply be too chaotic to allow sustained evolution. We've come to appreciate how finely balanced Earth's circumstances have been. Our Sun has been stable for billions of years. Our planet's orbit is nearly circular. We have a large moon that helps stabilize our axial tilt, and thus our seasons and climate. And we had just enough shielding from asteroids, thanks Jupiter, to not suffer constant catastrophic impacts after a certain point. Many other planetary systems we've discovered don't look so benevolent.
Some have giant planets migrating through, which could fling potential Earth-like worlds into eccentric orbits or out of the system entirely. Others are tidally locked close to small stars, cooking on one side and freezing on the other. If a typical solar system is more chaotic than ours, then even if life begins, it might face extreme climate swings or bombardments that keep resetting the clock. Unstable planetary systems could mean that intelligent life is a rare fluke that requires a Goldilocks set of long-term stability factors. We might not hear alien voices because few planets ever get a few billion steady years for intelligence to patiently evolve. Instead, most worlds might be cosmic yo-yos, one day lush and promising, the next sterilized or turned into an icy desert by a series of misfortunes. Furthermore, life might face cosmic deadlines. Stars like our Sun eventually change. In about 1 billion more years, Earth will become much hotter as the Sun's luminosity increases, likely rendering it uninhabitable for creatures like us, long before the Sun becomes a red giant. So even without external calamities, there's a ticking clock on how long a planet stays in the comfort zone. Perhaps on many worlds, life arose, began to climb toward complexity, but the window closed too fast. Maybe their sun warmed too quickly, or their planet lost its water due to a weak magnetic field. They never made it to the stage of building radios and rockets, not because they destroyed themselves, but because nature gave them too short a lease. Alternatively, consider that the universe itself changes over time. Early on, there was a bombardment of radiation everywhere. Later on, there will be darkness and decay. It might be that we're in a fortunate era now, when conditions are just right for biology. Too early, and constant asteroid impacts or high UV radiation might thwart evolution. Too late, trillions of years in the future, and stars will be dying out, leaving any life clinging around red dwarfs or cooling remnants, perhaps without the abundant energy needed for a bright civilization. In that sense, maybe advanced life has a sweet spot in cosmic history as well. Emerge too soon or too late, and the odds drop. The idea of a hostile universe also includes subtle, ongoing challenges. Cosmic rays zip through space. A planet's magnetic field, like Earth's, is needed to deflect them. Otherwise, surface life gets zapped and mutations soar. Many planets might not have strong magnetic shields if their cores freeze or their rotations slow. Likewise, if a planet doesn't have plate tectonics, it might not recycle carbon and could enter a runaway freeze or boil scenario, sterilizing itself in geologic time. These aren't dramatic explosions, just slow suffocations or poisonings inflicted by the environment. For every requirement life has, some worlds will lose that requirement at some point. Attrition might be constant. Here a biosphere is choked by a toxic gas buildup. There another is frozen under permanent ice after orbital wobbles went wrong. All these factors paint a picture where the cosmos isn't a welcoming cradle for life, but more like a harsh wilderness where only the hardiest or luckiest can survive and reach maturity. If that's the case, then intelligent civilizations might be exceedingly few and far between, not because they don't form, but because they almost always die out due to external forces beyond their control. We on Earth might owe our very existence to a long chain of fortunate events and avoided disasters. The quiet of the sky then becomes a kind of reflective silence, like walking through an ancient forest where only a few giant trees stand, survivors of many fires and storms. Each one that made it is precious, and they are separated by great distances. There's a solemn beauty in this view. The night is silent, not simply from emptiness, but because the voices that might have filled it were often tragically cut off. And yet, here we are, a voice that did survive, at least so far, in a universe that makes survival no simple thing. That knowledge can instill in us both a deep humility and a fierce protectiveness for our own world. Against the cosmic odds, our flame burns. Perhaps, somewhere out there in the dark, a few other flames burn too, rare and resilient, just waiting to be discovered in the vast, quiet expanse between countless unlit candles. Venturing into the more philosophical and speculative, some suggest that the resolution to Fermi's question lies not in astrophysics or biology, but in the very nature of reality. What if the reason we don't hear anyone else is because, in a sense, we're the only ones here by design? Perhaps the universe as we experience it is a kind of stage set, and it was never populated with other actors besides us. This line of thought drifts into the realms of simulation theory and even theological or metaphysical ideas. Though far from proven, and perhaps impossible to prove, these ideas provide a strange sort of comfort. If we are alone, maybe it's not an accident at all, but part of a larger plan or construct. One such idea is that we might be living in a simulation, an artificial reality generated by an advanced intelligence, whether aliens or our own descendants or something beyond comprehension. If our world is a simulated environment, it could be that the programmers only put one civilization in it, us. Maybe the goal of the simulation is to see how a lone intelligent species develops without external interference. In such a scenario, of course the sky would seem empty, because the simulation isn't rendering any others. Much like a video game that spawns just one player in a vast world, there are no non-player characters out there capable of chatting with us across the cosmic network. Any aliens, if they exist at all in this simulation, could be intentionally kept beyond our reach, or as faint possibilities never realized. Some even speculate about simulation boundaries. Perhaps if we try to travel too far or search too deeply, the simulation would somehow prevent it. Maybe that's why we don't see obvious aliens, because the simulation censors that information. It's a bit like being in a cosmic Truman Show, where the rest of the universe is a mostly silent backdrop, and only when we step off the set, or reach a certain level of technology, would the larger truth reveal itself. While this is a highly conjectural solution, it intriguingly frames the Fermi Paradox as a kind of intentional artifact. The silence is part of the program. A related metaphysical notion is that our universe might be crafted or designed with loneliness as a feature. Throughout human history, various religious or philosophical viewpoints have placed humanity in a unique spotlight. Perhaps in some grand scheme, intelligent life is meant to be sparse. Maybe we are a kind of experiment, or the seeds of intelligence are deliberately scattered light years apart, so that each grows in isolation until a time of convergence determined by the designer. If one believes in a creator or an underlying consciousness to the cosmos, one might say, we are alone because we are meant to be, at least for now. It could be a test of how we handle being the only thinking beings we know, or a way to ensure that when we do eventually meet others, if ever, we do so from a position of maturity and self-reliance. In a more poetic sense, perhaps the universe wanted companions that could each appreciate it in their own way, without immediately finding each other. In this framing, the quiet night sky is almost sacred. It is a silence imbued with intention, encouraging us to learn, explore, and cherish our own existence first.
To some, these speculations are oddly comforting. If we are alone by design, then our isolation is not a meaningless accident, but part of a grander narrative, overseen by some higher order. If a simulator or creator set the stage with only us upon it, then at least we are not unseen. We are the very focus of that cosmic mind's intent. To others, such ideas are as disquieting as any empty void, placing us in a universe where the walls are subtly enforced, and our freedom to find peers is intentionally curtailed. Yet, whether comforting or eerie, these metaphysical musings share a common theme. They imbue the silence with intention. Loneliness ceases to be an absurd quirk and becomes a canvas deliberately left blank, or a symphony yet to have its first note played. It is as if, in these scenarios, the cosmos is waiting for us to play our part fully before any others join the stage. And if that is so, then perhaps our task is simply to be the best first act we can be, until the curtain rises on whatever comes next. Then there's a somewhat different angle that's less about illusions and more about the shape of history itself, the concept of grabby aliens and cosmic timing. Proposed by some thinkers, it posits that eventually a civilization will arise, maybe us, maybe another, that doesn't stay quiet or local. It expands, rapidly and aggressively, colonizing huge swathes of space. Once such a grabby civilization appears, it will fill the galaxy, or beyond, relatively quickly on cosmic timescales, leaving a noticeable mark on everything. If that's true, then the fact that we currently see no evidence of such large-scale activity might simply mean we're early. In this picture, the reason we don't see others is that none of them had a head start on us, or if they did, they haven't reached our part of space yet. We might be living in the calm before the storm of cosmic expansion. Perhaps within the next few tens of millions of years, a blink in cosmic time, one civilization will burst forth, maybe humanity if we endure and choose that path, or maybe neighbours we have yet to detect, and their influence will spread like a wave. These future grabby aliens, which could be our own descendants, will essentially silence the Fermi Paradox by making it irrelevant. After they appear, anyone looking at the galaxy will clearly see evidence of intelligence everywhere, because the expansionist civilization will ensure that. So, the paradox is a temporary state of affairs. It's quiet now because the era of galactic colonization hasn't kicked off yet. In a sense, we could be living in the rare epoch when the universe is largely natural, untouched by any empire, like the morning hush before a bustling day. This idea is speculative, but offers an oddly hopeful spin. Maybe we're at the frontier of the timeline when the cosmos transitions from a wilderness to a garden tended by life. Combining such ideas, one could imagine even that the universe, simulated or not, has a destiny in which intelligence spreads and eventually saturates existence, but that moment has not arrived yet. Until then, the silence is preserved.
It might even be a safety mechanism. Perhaps multiple civilizations are kept apart, by distance or by design, until they reach a certain capability, to avoid conflicts or to ensure each develops unique qualities. Only when the time is right will the barriers fall, or the vast distances be overcome, and a grand union or confrontation of intelligences take place. This almost has a mythic quality, a future meeting of the minds written into the fabric of fate. In these metaphysical or futuristic interpretations, the emptiness we perceive is not a mistake or a stroke of bad luck, but rather a crucial element of a larger story. We are alone, for now, because that is how it must be at this stage of the narrative, whether by simulation settings, divine intention, or the early dawn of life's expansion. There is something oddly comforting in thinking that our loneliness might be temporary or purposeful. It suggests that the cosmos is not a cold, indifferent void, but perhaps more like a novel with chapters yet to unfold, or a garden that is only just beginning to see its first blooms, with many more to come.
For now, these ideas remain in the realm of speculation and philosophy. They are hard to test, and perhaps even harder to truly believe. Yet they remind us of an important truth. The Fermi Paradox forces us not only to look outward, but also inward and beyond, questioning our assumptions about reality itself. In the quiet night, such musings can feel natural. As we float in the dark, warm uncertainty of existence, we can wonder, is this silence a grand canvas awaiting its first strokes of life's masterpiece? Are we part of a simulation where the cosmic loneliness is the point of the experiment? Or are we pioneers at the dawn, the ones who will, in time, resolve the silence by reaching out and touching the stars? The answers may elude us, but the questions themselves cast a gentle, dreamlike spell, making the void feel a little less empty, and the mystery a bit more profound. To some, these speculative solutions are oddly comforting. If we are alone by cosmic design, then our solitude has meaning and guardianship. If no others are implemented in our reality, we become uniquely significant, a solitary focus of attention. To others, such ideas raise as many questions as they answer. Yet, comforting or disquieting, they all emphasize our special role in a silent stage. They turn the emptiness into something deliberate, not a void, but a waiting canvas or an opening chapter. And if that's true, then perhaps we are meant to be the pioneers, carrying the flame of consciousness forward until one day it ignites a broader cosmic dawn. Ultimately, what we call Fermi's paradox might fade away as we adjust our expectations. The silence isn't baffling once we appreciate how immense time and space truly are, and how nascent our own efforts have been. As our knowledge grows, we may come to see this quiet not as a problem, but as the natural state of a vast, sparsely populated universe, or simply a universe where the choir of life sings softly and far apart. In fact, the silence may be encouraging us with a gentle challenge to venture out and discover answers rather than assuming we'd hear them by now. Instead of a paradox, it becomes an invitation, a cosmic prompt to keep exploring, keep listening, and keep an open mind. The night sky, seemingly mute, tells us, be patient, you have only just begun. When viewed this way, our sense of wonder remains intact. and the so-called paradox transforms into a source of inspiration. We feel motivated to carry on our search without frustration, knowing that, whether we eventually find company or confirm our solitude, we will have grown wiser simply by asking the question. And so, the silent stars continue to beckon, and we continue our voyage into the unknown with hope and humility. After exploring so many wondrous possibilities, there is a quietly compelling chance that the so-called paradox isn't really a paradox at all. Perhaps we have simply overestimated the problem or framed it incorrectly. In our youthful excitement, we assumed the galaxy would be buzzing with obvious life, and that our lack of contact is bizarre. But stepping back, we might realize that, given what we know and don't know, the silence out there is not only unsurprising, it might be exactly what we should expect right now. This perspective is like a gentle sigh of realism, a grounding reminder that the universe owes us no conversation on a human timescale. First, there's the simple fact that we haven't been searching for very long, nor very thoroughly.
Then there's the matter of perspective. The whole paradox might be a product of anthropic bias and anthropocentrism. We're here, so we immediately imagine that of course life arises easily and often. But maybe our existence skews our expectations. We might be like lottery winners, marvelling that lottery wins seem possible. Yes, they are possible, but they're extremely rare by nature. According to some analyses, it could be that the odds of evolving intelligent life on any given Earth-like planet are astronomically low. If so, it's no wonder we don't see neighbours. We might literally be the only tech-capable civilization in this galaxy at present. This isn't paradoxical once you accept you might have won a very, very unlikely cosmic lottery. Through the anthropic principle, we reason that even if intelligent life is unbelievably rare, we shouldn't be shocked to find ourselves as one of the rare instances, because someone has to be that instance. And we are, by definition, in a place where life did happen. In other words, we could be living in one of the very few petri dishes where a complex organism grew. All the other petri dishes are dark when we look out, but that's exactly what we'd expect if the odds were long. There's a subtle selection effect. We're observing the universe from a seat that was reserved for a being that beat the odds, so naturally it feels like things should happen elsewhere too, but maybe they mostly don't. Many scientists have pointed out that Fermi's paradox might just be us realizing we're special in a disheartening way. Special as in statistically unlikely, not central to creation. Anthropocentrism also leads us to assume that aliens would think and behave kind of like us. Communicative, curious, eager to expand. But perhaps they don't. Our models of colonization and communication might be naive extrapolations of human behavior. We've asked, why haven't they colonized the galaxy? Why don't we see megastructures or hear broadcasts? But those questions presuppose that expansion and broadcasting are normative for advanced life. It could be that nearly all advanced species are inward-looking, or fall into equilibria with their environment, or simply have different priorities, as we discussed in earlier sections. If our assumptions about what aliens would naturally do are wrong, then there's no paradox, just our own lack of imagination. It's like a child on a lonely hilltop with a walkie-talkie, wondering why no one responds. Maybe others communicate by different means, or maybe
they're content in silence. There's no paradox in not hearing when you're listening for the wrong things. Furthermore, some of the logical underpinning of the paradox can be questioned. Fermi's famous question, "Where is everybody?" presumes that somebody should be noticeable by now. But is that a valid presumption? Our models of a galaxy teeming with civilizations often assume exponential growth, relentless colonization, or loud signaling. Yet, if any of those assumptions is off, say, interstellar travel is truly very hard and slow, or civilizations refrain from broadcasting for practical reasons, then it's quite reasonable that we haven't detected anyone yet. The so-called paradox might just be a mirage born from simplistic models. The galaxy could be full of life that mostly stays on home worlds or communicates in subtle ways. Or it could be mostly empty, with only a few dots of life so distant from one another that, until one develops extraordinary technology, each won't see the others. In neither case is there a contradiction. It becomes a matter-of-fact scenario. Where is everybody? Might be answered with far apart, minding their own business, or very few and far between. And indeed, it's possible that we are effectively the first, or the only, intelligent civilization in our galaxy at this moment. Someone has to be first. Perhaps conditions have only recently, in the last few billion years, allowed for complex life, and we happen to emerge at the leading edge. If no one else had the head start on us, then of course the sky is quiet. We're pioneers. This is not paradoxical, it's just timing. In fact, if life's genesis or evolution to intelligence requires a chain of improbable events, it might be that we're not only first here, but possibly among the first anywhere. That's a heavy realization. The silence could be the hush of a universe that is mostly waiting for its first sparks of conscious life to catch fire. Paradox? No, just an open frontier with a few campfires, where one day there may be many. In sum, when we re-examine Enrico Fermi's question, we might conclude that the paradox is largely of our own making. The universe never guaranteed us a crowd of neighbours right now. We have one data point, ourselves, and a lot of uncertainty. Given that, the lack of evidence for others is not mystifying, it's expected. The night is young and vast, and our understanding is shallow. This realization doesn't diminish the yearning or the wonder. If anything, it amplifies the poignancy of our solitary vigil under the stars. We are like early sailors on a boundless ocean, wondering if there are other ships out there. The fact we see none on the horizon doesn't mean none exist. The ocean is simply enormous, and we've barely left port. There may be no grand puzzle to solve, just the slow, patient process of exploration. And so perhaps we can set aside the word paradox and simply embrace the silence for what it is, a canvas of possibility, not a sign that something is wrong with our assumptions. In this gentle acceptance, there is a kind of peace. The night may remain silent, and that's all right. We will listen a little longer and cherish the fact that we have the privilege to wonder at all. Ultimately, what we call Fermi's paradox might fade away as we adjust our expectations. The silence isn't baffling once we appreciate how immense time and space truly are, and how nascent our own efforts have been. As our knowledge grows, we may come to see this quiet not as a problem, but as the natural state of a vast
sparsely populated universe, or simply a universe where the choir of life sings softly and far apart. In fact, the silence may be encouraging us with a gentle challenge to venture out and discover answers rather than assuming we'd hear them by now. Instead of a paradox, it becomes an invitation, a cosmic prompt to keep exploring, keep listening, and keep an open mind. The night sky, seemingly mute, tells us, be patient. You have only just begun. When viewed this way, our sense of wonder remains intact, and the so-called paradox transforms into a source of inspiration. We feel motivated to carry on our search without frustration, knowing that whether we eventually find company or confirm our solitude, we will have grown wiser simply by asking the question. And so the silent stars continue to beckon, and we continue our voyage into the unknown with hope and humility. In the quiet of our wonder, humans have not been idle. We are a storytelling and cataloguing species, and when faced with the great silence, we responded by creating an anthology of answers. Over the years, thinkers and enthusiasts have compiled long lists of Fermi Paradox solutions, each list a testament to our relentless curiosity and imagination. One can picture, at the end of time, a cosmic librarian carefully thumbing through a great compendium titled "Where is Everybody?", containing entry after entry of theories, conjectures, and wild ideas, all cross-referenced and annotated. In truth, such compendia already exist here on Earth, lovingly assembled by those who have pondered this mystery deeply. Astronomer and author Stephen Webb, for example, wrote an entire book enumerating dozens upon dozens of possible solutions, 50 in his first edition, expanded to 75 in a later edition. Reading through it is like walking through a gallery of possibilities, each idea framed and described, from the sobering, "they are rare or absent," to the fantastical, "they are here in ways we can't recognize." Webb's extensive list shows just how wide the spectrum of thought is, how the silence has inspired everything from rigorous scientific hypotheses to flights of speculative fancy. It's as if he attempted to give voice to the silence by saying, "Here are all the ways it might make sense." The sheer number of solutions he catalogued tells us something, that perhaps no single explanation is overwhelmingly convincing, and thus we keep all options on the table.
In the digital age, others have followed suit in compiling and sharing these ideas. Tim Urban, in his popular Wait But Why blog, wrote an engaging two-part essay that became famous for bringing the Fermi Paradox to a broad audience. In it, he organised solutions into tidy categories and gave them memorable nicknames. His list distilled many possibilities into a form accessible to the layperson, injecting humour and humanity into the cosmic question. Meanwhile, bloggers like Henry Oliver painstakingly collected solutions from articles, papers and forums, curating lists that grew as new theories emerged. Henry's list, presented in an online essay, runs the gamut from mainstream scientific arguments to more eccentric proposals, each accompanied by a succinct summary or quote. It's as though across the internet, a quiet, collaborative project has been underway to enumerate every plausible answer to why the skies are mute. Even scientists and scholars have their compendia. A writer on a site whimsically called Math Scholar delved into analysing why many of the proposed solutions are not viable, while highlighting a few that seem promising, implicitly curating his own list by sorting wheat from chaff. Academic journals have had special issues, where multiple researchers contribute their favoured explanation to the paradox, creating a tapestry of expert opinions. On forums and Medium articles and space enthusiast communities, people share top 10 lists or 27 reasons we haven't found aliens. Each compilation has its own flavour. Some lean practical, some drape themselves in science fiction, some are optimistic, others decidedly pessimistic. All these lists and catalogues serve a comforting purpose. They show that we are not alone in wondering why we seem alone. Through them, we see a community of minds through time, each adding their little piece to the puzzle, even if the puzzle is incomplete. One can imagine that hypothetical librarian at the universe's end, nodding kindly at each entry. Zoo hypothesis? Noted. Great filter? Several chapters. Dark forest? Ah, yes, page 314. It's a gentle reminder that, lacking real aliens to talk to, we have talked to each other, sharing ideas and keeping the inquiry alive. As the universe ages and our knowledge expands, some entries in these compendia may be crossed out or updated. Perhaps one day we will have evidence that clearly favours one branch of solutions over others. Maybe Stephen Webb's 75 solutions will whittle down to one or two truths that were hiding in plain sight. Or maybe new solutions will be added that we can't even imagine today, as our perspective changes. For now, each list, each compendium, is like a lantern in the darkness, cataloguing our collective reasoning and creativity. There is also a poetic aspect to these meta-lists. Taken together, they almost read like an epic poem or a philosophical treatise about humanity's place in the cosmos. By listing every reason we might be alone or not alone, we are, in a way, sketching the silhouette of our hopes and fears. The solutions that resonate, whether it's the fear of self-destruction, or the hope of transcension, or the humility of being first, tell us about ourselves as much as about aliens. In compiling the silence, we reveal our own voice. Each theory is a mirror. Our dread of isolation, our cautionary awareness of our own fragility, our optimism that maybe someone is out there if only we listen right or wait long enough. So, as we near the end of tonight's journey through the silence, it's fitting to acknowledge those quiet cataloguers and list makers. They have, with calm diligence, mapped the contours of the unknown for us. Like librarians at the heat death of the universe, they index the dark, putting each mystery in its place on the shelf, even if none of the mysteries are solved just yet. It's a labour of love and a gesture of defiance against the void, saying that even if we hear nothing, we will not be overwhelmed or disheartened. We will instead enumerate possibilities, one by one, until the silence itself speaks in the patterns of our questions. Yet for all these catalogues of conjecture, the mystery itself remains undimmed. The compendia can list 100 possibilities, but not one of them, nor all together, can tell us for certain why the cosmos stays quiet. In a sense, each new entry in these lists is a tribute to our willingness to live with the question, an acknowledgement that, at least for now, we simply do not know. Perhaps the final line of any honest compendium would read, or maybe something else entirely, something beyond our current imagination. And so the paradox endures,
inviting each generation to revisit its riddles, and perhaps to add a few of their own. It becomes an open-ended dialogue, carried out in whispers among ourselves as the stars look on in silence. We continue to scan the heavens and turn the pages of possible answers, fueled by that special mix of hope, wonder, and gentle frustration that the great silence inspires. In that ongoing pursuit, there is its own quiet meaning. Even without a definitive answer, the act of asking unites us with the vastness of the night. In this extensive list of answers without a certain answer, there lies a quiet wisdom. Sometimes it's the exploration of the question that matters as much as the answer. The Fermi Paradox, framed by these many solutions, becomes not a riddle to be answered in one stroke, but a conversation across time. A conversation in which we, the lone voices, discuss the absence of other voices, and find meaning in that very discussion. And now we find ourselves back under the quiet dome of the sky, having wandered through a multitude of cosmic possibilities. We have imagined loneliness and crowded galaxies, fleeting sparks and hidden watchers, cosmic dangers and grand designs. Each idea was like a small lantern we lit in the darkness, but around us the great night remains. The stars still shimmer in perfect silence. No definitive answer has announced itself, and somehow that's all right. In the absence of certainty, we discover something gentle and profound, a kinship with the mystery itself. The not knowing, the wondering, has been its own intimate experience, binding us, for this time, to the vastness. There is a unity in our uncertainty. Every person who has ever looked up in wonder, be it an ancient wanderer or a modern scientist, shares this quiet bond. We all face the same silent sky, ask the same question, and feel the same mix of awe and humility. In that sense, the great silence isn't isolating at all. It's something we experience together as a species. It reminds us that, on the cosmic stage, we are one. All of humanity is a single, small voice, unsure whether any others are out there to hear us. Yet we continue to speak, to listen, and to hope. There is a heartwarming courage in that. Like children singing in the dark, we lift our song not knowing if anyone beyond the walls can hear. And the beauty of the song is not diminished by the lack of reply.
Indeed, there is a strange beauty in not knowing. If the universe were clamorous with voices, perhaps it would feel smaller, more ordinary. But as it is, each star remains a source of possibility. Until we learn otherwise, every pinprick of light could harbour a million stories, or none. The canvas of the night is largely blank, and in that blankness, our imaginations have painted scenes of caution and wonder and hope. Not having the answer gives us the freedom to dream myriad answers. It spurs us to explore, to learn, and to cherish the one home and one civilization we know for sure. The cosmic silence, in its way, teaches us to value what we have here and now, a planet bursting with life and the minds to appreciate the stars above. And if one day the silence should end, if we detect a faint signal in the sky or see a new light on a distant world, how will we feel? Perhaps we will remember this quiet night and understand how precious it was, how it allowed us to find ourselves. Or, if the silence never ends, if we truly are alone, then this vast and empty stage becomes all the more ours to wander. We might be the seed of something future and vast. It may fall on us, and those who come after us, to carry life's torch into the cosmic dark. If the universe has been waiting silently for its stories to be told, maybe we are the opening lines of that story. The loneliness, then, is not a curse, but a calling. To be the voices that fill the void. To be the gardeners that one day make the stars bloom with life. For now, however, the night remains softly, serenely silent. Our journey through conjecture comes to an end, and we return to simple reality. The crickets chirp on earth, and the Milky Way glows gently overhead, saying nothing. Yet the silence no longer feels empty. It feels poetic, meaningful in its own right. We realize that the universe, silent or not, is our companion. It has been listening to us all along, in ways we perhaps don't fully grasp. And as we listen in return, we find that we are listening not just for aliens, but to the heartbeat of the cosmos, and to our own hearts as well. The hour is late. The campfires of our imagination are burning low. It's time to drift into sleep, cradled by the same quiet cosmos that stirred our questions. We may not have solved the Fermi Paradox tonight, but in exploring it, we have strengthened our connection to the stars and to each other. In a way, that is an answer itself, not to the puzzle we asked, but to a deeper need we carried, the need to feel at home in the universe, even when it feels vast and mysterious. So let us close our eyes now, under the velvety darkness, and breathe in the solitude not as emptiness, but as possibility. Let the silence be comforting, like a soft blanket of cosmic night enveloping us. We are small, yes, but we are also rare and precious, and in this moment, we are enough. The stars nod in their quiet way. The question of, where is everybody, may linger, but it no longer troubles us. Instead, it gently tucks us in, knowing that come what may, contact or continued quiet, we will make the most of this beautiful, silent universe we call home. Dream sweetly beneath the silent stars. The night keeps its watch, and we, the lone yet hopeful watchers of the night, find peace in not knowing, and wonder in the open question. Good night, and may the silence of the stars lull you into the deepest of dreams.